I'm Michael, by the way.
Michael, hello.
Yes, nice to meet you all.
Great, proceed. We'll introduce ourselves as soon as we get started, which, having the clock, move the clock.
It's over there, about 5-2. So, where do you want me to sit?
Well, you can sit right in the front.
Right here?
Fine, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Jess is in Boston this week for meetings. Yeah,
It's one of those last minute things, so.
How's that working with your voice up there? Ian's gonna subdivide now.
it is what it is.
She's decided
So how,
that she's,
so
Oh, did
you're
you?
digging,
yeah,
yeah, you're
she
working
may
on the
not
playground.
do
Friday,
it.
you're gonna be able to- you okay with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, she's
She
back
said
tomorrow
why.
night.
She's like that. You know, something
Yeah,
else.
because we've got the,
She had all
we've
through
got
that.
the,
Yeah.
national concert tomorrow night, so she's like rushing back for that.
It's
Five.
going on.
Oh, it's not 6.
Yeah. Nothing.
The art show's at 5, the
Use the
concert's
original
at 6.
application and building permits and aisle and everything else. Seen copies, yeah.
They're so great and terrible.
I'm just-
Exactly. Exactly. It's the best memories.
Especially when the band starts, you're like,
And I went up
Yeah.
there.
oh good, I got it, I'm good.
To look at.
So,
And how was Phoenix?
Phoenix was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had.
We were sort of there around the same time.
No, you were you were in Flagstaff?
Flagstaff.
Yeah,
You were in Flagstaff.
yeah. No, it was great. My mom was really happy for us to go.
Oh, no.
See
Not that.
So,
I only had half hour.
Was it warm? I'm trying to remember, was it warm?
it was
Yeah.
mostly warm. There was a couple days that were really hot. It was like almost 100. But like out there, 100 doesn't
It's
feel
not
like.
as bad, yeah.
Yeah, she actually, we got in her pool one day and I was like, it's cold. And then I look at the temperature of the pool and it's like 83. And I'm like, it was not cold. But it's interesting because it's so dry out there. Like even 83 felt cold. Like you turn on the heater and it hit 87, which was like comfortable. And like, not out east where we have humidity. So
Right.
yeah, no, but we had a good time. The kids had a good time. Did all the highlights, botanical gardens,
Okay.
the train museum. They had an awesome train museum.
Oh, good.
Um,
Was Julie still at the Botanical Gardens? The glass exhibit?
no, there wasn't that anymore. So, or we didn't see it one or the other. But I don't think
Yeah, you would have seen
Sure.
it.
yeah.
It's a big thing to move.
I used to be able to
He
do
goes all
it.
over with
On
them.
the wall.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
up there on the wall.
That would have been cool.
You
I
want
think
to
I saw one of
go-
those- I mean, I know I saw one of those exhibits in Vegas many years ago. It's like the
Well,
one
there's a
time I
permanent
went.
one.
The one they showed the
Vegas.
velocity.
Sure, not here
Yeah.
very often.
No.
Yeah, it was the one time I went
Have
to
you
Vegas.
met Beth in the office
We
yet?
were somewhere where I saw one in a window, and it was recent.
Where were we used to go?
Okay.
In the last.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Her husband's
Do you want us?
for a while.
No, it was the last week. We were.
I think it's
It's such a-
It is.
Oh, you know where?
Okay.
It was in Kansas.
It's 7:30, so I'm going to call our meeting in order. And the first thing on the agenda is, since this is the first meeting of the year, we have to re-elect officers. And would somebody like to be a motion,
a motion to,
appoint somebody as chairman?
a motion to elect Frank Benish as chairman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we have a vice chairman? You don't? Dave, do you don't want to be part of that? Teskey?
Probably not a good year.
Is it ever?
Do we need a vice
I
chairman?
don't think so.
Okay.
Nobody wants to volunteer.
We get it.
I would like to move that Dave Mason remain as secretary.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Dave.
Well, thank you.
You're done. I don't think we need a treasurer. Okay, the only other thing on the agenda of our meeting is to have a public hearing on the request of Michael Cortez, for a variance of 24 Deer Run in Jackson. I think we've all seen the property, and just by way of introduction, I'm Frank Benish, I'm the chairman. To my left, your right is Huntley Allen, who is a member. To my right, Dave Mason, as you now know, the secretary. And to his right, Dave Metesky, also a member. And the fifth member, unfortunately, could not be here. So there's four of us. We've all read your application, we've, I think, all visited the property, I think we understand everything that is, and all the issues here, I think. But generally, the way this works is you get to make a presentation as you feel necessary, and then anybody else who is of interest, and that generally means the butter, can make a statement. We can ask questions during that process, and then we'll close the presentations, and then we'll discuss among ourselves, with you present, how we want to respond to the variance.
Sure, awesome. Looks like you guys printed everything, but if not, I have an extra copy. So, like that. All right, so first and foremost, thank you all for meeting with me today. I appreciate it. As Frank said, my name is Michael. I guess getting into practical matters, I wrote a couple notes so I don't forget anything. We moved into 24 Deer Run about 11 years ago. Hunter knows the property well. I think he was our plumber for many years for the Ramondes. Since then, my wife and I have had a dog. Got a dog, 2 kids, got a little bit older, and moved up here full time actually. And we love living up here full time. Our kids love it. They normally don't get any screen time. That's why they're being so good right now, because they love being outside. My son actually goes to Jackson Garden at this point. But anyways, as we've kind of gone through that process, we found that we really need a garage. There's a whole slew of different reasons. I think I put a bunch of them in there. One of them is, I just put a couple on here just so I didn't forget. One of them is storage. You know, things like skis we can handle in the house, but things like bikes, just using that as an example. Today I have to store them in the shed to carry them up the hill for our kids to use the bike. There's nowhere for me to store them. It's a dumb thing, but it's important. Snow blower, we just don't have a place for it. There's that. There's cars, there's 2 kids, jobs. We need access to be able to leave quickly on some days, and especially in the winter, that can be hard for us to get the cars cleared off, get the actual driveway in a place that we can go up. It's fairly steep, and it's covered from any sort of sunlight, because there's like kind of a wall on the south side of it. And so it can just be challenging. And I guess on the snow blower front, for what it's worth, we really need one. My back's killing me putting on that. I think those are the big ones. So we looked into it, and honestly, at first, we were not thinking about setbacks, and we had a few locations the garage could go. But it's a challenging property for a bunch of different reasons. And after a lot of thought, we landed on the location that we're presenting here. It satisfies a lot of the requirements we talked about. And as a plus, especially for Neil and Susanna, I think it's a little less so for Greg and Melinda here, it's the best spot for our neighbors because it doesn't impact their view. It keeps it very low profile. As we learned about setbacks, we obviously wanted to honor and want to honor town rules. So we considered other locations. However, given the unique circumstances of our property, setbacks pretty much prevent us from building anywhere we were thinking about. None of them would really work for us if taking setbacks go into account. And so eventually, that's why we brought this up with the board today. This is the ideal location for a garage and really makes a big improvement for our family. And yeah, that's the high level overview that I just wanted to give and some backstory for you. What I thought I'd do next is just kind of quickly run through the 5 criteria, because I know that's kind of how this is structured, and walk through them and give you a little color to each. So, all right, first one is granting the variance would not be counter to the public interest. Look, I think first and foremost, it's the best spot for the neighborhood for a garage for us. If we try to go down the steep part of the hill, if you were up there kind of looking to the left from like towards our house, at the end of the day, it would be interesting to build. We'd have to cut down a lot of trees, and Greg and Melinda would probably be looking at a 20-foot concrete wall to be able to get it high enough to where we could actually drive into it, which would not be ideal. If we put it on the core part of the driveway, we'd still have setback issues with Neil and Susanna, who are the ones above us. the house to the right, if you're kind of looking down the cul-de-sac. And then they would have to look at our garage in their view. Today they see a bit of our house, and there'd be a garage and the house. So this location impacts neither, and we purposely went to design that was low profile, fits in with the neighborhood. And then of course, outside of our neighbors, it's in a cul-de-sac, it's tucked away from the rest of town. I'll leave it up to you all how much you consider that, but I don't think anyone really comes down our road except for the houses, the folks who live on our road. So, and ultimately, I think, yeah, so those are the big things on counter public interest. I don't see how it could counter public interest in any way, shape, or form. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. Look, we have a very unique property that limits our options, and we've tried to push the garage back as far as we can from the road and as far as we can from the setbacks, and as much as possible. And we've tried to, as I said, make it as low profile as possible with a flatter roof and a darker color to blend in. Because the reason you have setbacks is to kind of maintain the rural nature of the town, right? I can get into a little bit more of the nuances and details of where it's sitting and why that's the furthest back, but I think if you just mind taking me on my word on that for the moment. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. I'll be honest with you, I hated this question on the form. We all live pretty good lives today, and I worked in some places where that's not the case. I used to work in Kenya for a little while, and they live with a lot less and are quite happy with and they're still quite happy living with a lot less than we have in the States. So all I'll say is, look, we're not talking about ensuring I can put food on the table, or staying warm in the winter, but as our family's grown, we really need the additional space and storage. It's hard, our house just doesn't have it, and it's a place we need to put our cars and be able to get out confidently, etc. And this would have a huge positive impact on our family. So I'll leave it as that answer, if that's helpful. If the variance were granted, the values of surrounding properties would not be diminished. I think I already touched on this one. I think it's a good place for all of our neighbors, and if anything, it'll help increase the value of our neighborhood by just improving our property. Improving your property helps improve others' properties. And then the last one is unnecessary hardship. Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of this variance would result in unnecessary hardship because. So let's talk a little bit about the special conditions. And our property is actually surprisingly special and unique for Jackson. First and foremost, our frontage is incredibly limited. I may have misread this, so you guys probably know more than me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but zoning regulations in rural residential areas require 200 feet of frontage or 100 feet for houses on a cul-de-sac, is technically what the zoning regulations state. I can tell you after perusing all of the tax maps, primarily in the V ones, which I know are not, some of them are in the rural areas still, there are a lot of homes that don't adhere to that, or a lot of properties that don't adhere to that. But our home is under 50 feet of frontage, and again, I could be wrong, but after looking through all the maps, I could only find 2 homes in Jackson that had less than 50 feet of frontage on a road, by me looking at the tax maps. It was us, and it was a home in Mirror Lake, but that also has a 23 acre HOA that it's a part of, and I don't know if that's, I don't think it's a PUD, but maybe it's some sort of nuance there that I don't know about. So we are very limited there. There were a couple that were close, but not under 50, and then there were 2 lots in the Highlands that just weren't built under 50. So you can make an argument about those either way. But we were the only 2, we were one of 2 under 50 in all of Jackson. Second, unlike Mirror Lake, we have incredibly steep elevations coming off of our entry there, especially on the one side. It's over 45, or it's close to a 45% grade, which really limits our options. And then finally, our home being built in 73, it was initially, I think, the Whitneys probably created the neighborhood sometime in the late 60s. I don't actually know the specific date, but we're talking over 50 years at this point. The unique configuration, I don't know if there was actually these setbacks at that time, you might know better than me, but just kind of the unique location of our home makes it very hard for us to find a place on the property that allows us to meet the zoning regulations. So I think to kind of finish that, there's 3 key items there. Number 1 is lack of frontage. We're only 1 of 2 in Jackson with under 50. 2 is the steep elevations, and then 3 is the unique location of our home on the property. That was built back 50 years ago. So yeah, I think those are kind of the special conditions, and then unnecessary hardship. I kind of already referenced a few of those items before. Again, I hate that term. We all live good lives in the United States. But I do think that it would provide a lot of value for us, and the other options, there really aren't any other good options of where to put the garage that make any real sense. So, anyways, that's it. Let me know what questions you have, or if that makes sense.
Go ahead, if you have questions.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Looking at your plan, while you do have a very limited amount of road frontage, your property does continue on to the left of, if you're looking at the house, to the left of the road, right?
Correct. So wait, to the left of the road? A little bit, yes, but that's where we have a 45% grade.
What, I have difficulty seeing the effect on meeting the setback requirements that's created by the road frontage. It doesn't seem to me that the road frontage is creating the problem.
Sure.
Because it's 50 feet back from the center line, which is,
The road frontage just gives us a very little space in which to actually, create a driveway. That is the only place we can have a driveway, and thus kind of pinches us in from a spacing perspective.
right,
So if you look here,
yeah,
we've got, I can kind of walk through it. We've got a 25-foot setback on this side,
right.
and then we've got a 25-foot setback on this side, and then the 25 feet over here. And so the way the land kind of lays is you've got a almost 45 degree elevation drop here. It's about 25 feet down to the shed. It's about 20 to here, which just makes this very challenging. And then you've got our road here, which forces us to stay in setback basically all the way around,
Right.
and doesn't give us any options here to potentially create the garage.
Right.
If I had more frontage, let's just say I had another, like my house was here as an example, that just may, in this case probably wouldn't, but let's say it was this way, right? I had 100-foot, 200-foot frontage, it's just the nature of the property, I could just put a garage here, right? It's flat. This is the only place that I can access my property, which just doesn't give me many options to work from.
You're only 7 feet into the setback.
Correct.
Okay. Why couldn't you move the garage 7 feet to the left or right, depending how you're looking at it? In other words, move it over here as opposed to having it there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things that are challenging for us. So number 1 is our location of our well is right here. So what ends up happening is we're trying to get spots that allow us to come in here and below, and I don't have the turning radius here to get into the garage from below. So that's the challenge there. We want to go as far back as we can, and I might even be able to push it to 2021. Like it's just the location of the well that's giving us the challenges. I'm making sure we have the angle
It
there.
seemed to me that the well, excuse me, the well is on the slope, right? It's below the area that you've got filled that's flat.
It's not, well, it's like where it's flat, it's literally right on the other side where the slope begins.
Okay, so it's where the slope begins.
Yeah.
And if you move that garage 7 feet in that direction, then you couldn't get into it?
Correct.
Really?
Yeah, because if you look at it, I should have put a line on how that distance there, but we're talking about maybe a 12-foot, give or take. I'm kind of guessing from there on the plan, maybe 12, 13 feet. So if you move another 7 feet this way, now I've only got
Not
7.
that way, this way.
Well, I'd still be stuck in this setback.
Well, you're in that setback anyhow. I'm just saying if you moved, and my reading at least, well, actually, that's not a road road, so I guess that 25-foot setback
Yeah.
would be, although I think what the ordinance says is that if it's on a side road or another property, this is on another property, isn't it? This
Correct.
abuts to another property. Your property doesn't go on, and this is it.
Yeah, and to be clear, actually, because I was talking about frontage, I was just meaning like, I don't have a lot of options from a driveway
I
creation
understand
perspective.
that, yeah.
We're actually, and I know there's a little discussion about this, but if you take the point of view that the center of the road is the center of the cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
we do believe we can go back 50 feet from that.
I
And so
understand
we're
that.
not actually in the setback for the road. We're only in the
Right.
setbacks for this
Right.
property and this property, which is
Right.
Greg and Melinda and
Right.
Gail Savannah.
Okay. And so the reason that you wouldn't move it to eliminate the violation of setback, at least on one side, is that you couldn't turn a car?
So there's two. That's the most obvious one, and really makes it a non-starter from the whole, I mean, it just doesn't make sense from the being able to turn the car in with the well there. And we did the math around like how much turning radius a car is, and this was about the minimum we could do. Sorry, my wife did that, and she's not here tonight. The other is the aesthetics. This would be kind of front on. If you start moving it off, it's gonna look a little weird. We rendered it out from just a picture perspective, and it was just looking odd for the neighborhood. Again, she's unfortunately the architect and can talk to that better than I can, and aesthetics are a little bit more of a her point of view issue, but so there's that, but the main one was the well. Like, I can't get a car in with the well there.
Okay. See if I have any other questions.
There is a setback in the road though, isn't there, 25 feet? Because the town, I went up with the road agent saying, he's only concerned about plowing. The way the garage is situated now, he said, it wouldn't be a problem with plowing. He has to plow off, when you're looking at the house, off to the left. But I think, isn't there, from that 50 foot, because he mentioned 50 feet from the center, so where the pavement is town property.
Right.
Isn't it supposed to be 25-foot setback though from?
No,
That was the old,
my reading, they changed it.
They
My
changed it,
reading
yeah.
was that if you've got a setback of 50 feet from the center travel line of the road, that's what's required.
They changed, that was the change about 5 years
That was
ago.
that was about 2 years
Like
ago.
cul-de-sac, because I was talking with the building, with the inspector in town too, and he wasn't sure how they worked that.
Well, it seems reasonable to me. what
Yeah,
you've done.
because it's not really a road, it's a,
I think that's something that in my opinion, the planning board kind of didn't fully anticipate when they made that change.
Yeah, I agree.
And you could argue, I mean, I don't know what 50 feet, where you measure 50 feet for a cul-de-sac.
Well, they're measuring from the center of the cul-de-sac, and if the cul-de-sac is the traveled
Yeah.
lane, which it is, then that
Though
makes sense.
you put a tree in the middle of it and it becomes a rotary, you know, all of a sudden the traveled way is,
Yeah,
I mean, it just,
Oh, I get what you mean, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so, I mean-
But there is no tree,
yeah, you know,
so let's
so,
give them the 50 feet.
so, yeah, I mean, I've pondered that for some time, and I think at this point, I mean, the building inspector did not turn down the building permit for the setback from the traveled way.
Well, he didn't actually say what he was doing,
No.
other than,
He said he
it's
might,
this,
and
and it was the
he
whole
clearly,
thing.
he clearly,
He thought 50 feet was okay.
no, he said neither. He said he denied this because it intrudes on the setback from the adjoining properties.
Yeah, okay.
He expressed no opinion. If we granted a variance, he may then have to decide, or not, whether or not you measure from 50 feet from the center, or however you handle the
well, he
cul-de-sac.
said adjoining properties though, not,
Yeah, and my assumption is he's happy with the 50 feet.
I think it's more.
I mean, he's not gonna have us grant a variance and then say, oh, 50 feet's not enough, or that's the wrong place to measure it.
I would not think so, but I mean, all I'm saying is, all he's really done is deny the permit based on the intrusion on the setback of the adjoining properties.
Right. then that's
Oh.
what we're working with.
And so I think we
Yeah.
probably work with that, and if you, kind of as an aside, I do intend on sending the planning board an email
Yeah.
saying, you have any, you
Yeah.
might wanna,
Think
if you're
about,
happy with this,
think about cul-de-sacs.
yeah.
Yeah.
How do they work?
So, right now, do you have other questions or costs, concerns, or comments?
No, I think those were my questions. I would, that's okay. I would like to understand more clearly this business about turning radius. But
Yeah,
that's the best we can do.
I can probably Google it again if that's helpful, but I'll take
Well,
it from it.
No, that's okay.
We specific, for what it's worth, again, I'm sorry I don't have it for you, we did specifically look up what is the minimum turning radius, not of our cars, but in general, and made sure that we left enough clearance to be able to meet that.
Okay.
We tried to push back as far as we could before, hitting that location.
How many cars do you have?
Today we have two. We have two kids, at some point we'll have more, and then we needed the additional space for snow blowers, bikes, etc.
Yeah.
And that's a very tight garage still, we're trying to keep it as like, it literally will fit the cars.
Yeah,
So, the turning rate, I mean, in theory, one, I suppose, could do a T, where the car began a turn, then had to back again, and, I mean, because your turning radius, you're assuming it's a 180-degree turn, coming down the
No.
roadway.
No, we're already doing the back end. So I was assuming, I can just draw this for a second. I was assuming just this quarter turn, effectively like this, and then you come out like that and you go out like that. So we were really purely just trying to make sure that we had enough to make the turn here to get to this part of the driveway to be able to back up.
Yes, that's in the bottom of the garage.
Correct.
Yeah, so there's I think the other way I understand is the two-level garage we're talking about.
I know.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. Well, how many cars they have? We got 4-car garage.
No.
Well, they need a place for the goat too.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You have a goat, huh?
We do not have a goat. That's actually, I found out.
Would you like to
that's-
have a goat?
No, goats. There are actually, funny enough, there are covenants for our property that do not allow us to have
Oh,
goats
really?
there.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I know. No goats, guys. No
Should make
goats.
the property similar to this. I think they had built 25 feet back when you went up there, Warren and
Yeah.
Leslie's. That driveway's scary in the summer
Oh, yeah.
and the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the one that goes right down to the,
The garage comes out, you might have the length of the car and it's right up.
right.
And it's the same situation.
Yeah.
Well, those were my questions.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
No.
So, there's, I'm sorry, I don't know your names, but you're in the audience.
Melinda Foley Marcello and Greg Marcello, we are butters,
And where are you? Are you 22,
28.
28?
So you're coming down the street, we're on the left. It's
And
the
your
big
name,
house.
who is your partner's name?
Greg.
Greg.
And are you the next one on the cul-de-sac?
If you're looking at our house,
Yeah,
they're the one on the left side.
yeah, okay.
Before
Yeah.
before
Before
the
the
house.
house.
So
Yeah.
you're kind of downhill almost.
A little bit.
Down the hill, I
They're
don't know.
all on the same level.
Same level,
Yeah.
more toward the ski slope.
Our house is up high, their house is down, ours is
Okay.
up.
Yeah, the house is up. Your lot looks very similar in the way it
Yes,
runs
Yes.
right
yes,
off.
yeah, we're built into the hill.
Just you built up close and that house was built down, right?
Yep.
And then Neil and Suzanne would be here, but they're in Bahamas, I think, so.
And those are the people who wrote the email, were they?
And they-
Yeah, I already talked to him.
Okay.
He was all right.
Do you have any comments or?
I just would like to say that they've run everything past us and they were very considerate and how they were thinking about putting it in. And Jessica is an amazing architect slash designer, and I really trust whatever she proposes because she would want it to look nice for everyone. And I think it's really important that we support a young family trying to live
We
here in
like young
Jackson.
families with children.
Exactly, exactly. I just think it's really important, and we're thrilled that they're there and support their building.
Okay. That's it, then, we should, at this point, we'll discuss among ourselves. I mean, somebody else raised the point, but I didn't really know what to think about setbacks from travel way for a cul-de-sac. But I don't think that's something we are forced to deal with tonight. So I think we should just, let the planning board know this seems to be exactly, it's not clear how to manage it and how to apply the zoning ordinance to a cul-de-sac and let them decide if they want to do something or not. And leave it at that, if you all are okay with that.
Yeah, because I was uncomfortable with how close it was to those where I talked to the planning,
Yeah.
but because I can think that my only feeling, it could set a precedent. I know of other properties now.
No,
Remember,
no such thing.
the zoning decisions never set a precedent. There is no such
Oh,
thing as
okay,
a
as
precedent.
long as that's,
So, but it's, in a sense, it may influence other properties that have steep slopes and a very small setback. That is very small frontage.
Oh, they may come to the zoning board, but then they get a chance
Get
to
their
explain
own individual
their
case.
situation.
There's no such thing as a precedent.
There are no precedents.
Now, but, were there other things that, in talking with others, did you have other kind of,
I got the same results from the building inspector. He really didn't commit on, how he felt. And that's why I wanted to talk to Gary Allen.
Yep.
Concerned with plowing, because I'm looking at, at the town hall, and because we're gonna have to move that, the damage that's done to the town hall from the snow.
Yeah.
And will the town be responsible for any damage to the front of this when they do plow? Because right now, there's cars parked there in the wintertime, and the snow does build up against those cars.
Yeah, but the only way the town could be, I think, the only way the town could be having responsibility for anything would be if they hit something with their plow.
Yeah,
Not moving snow, that's the homeowner's problem to get the snow out of there.
and then the other concern I had was runoff from the road. And usually with the driveway, Gary was saying, the first 10 feet has to slope downhill, and then you can swale up because it has to make runoff. And of course, right now, the water, depending on how they build this, is gonna run down their driveway or off on the other side.
Can I add 2 points to those that just might be valuable? It'll be up to you.
Yeah,
So number one on plowing, we've lived there for 11 years. This will help with plowing to some extent, because generally we'll park the cars literally at the road's edge right now because of just the way those spots are. And he needs to turn it and put it between like our house and their house. And it is tight. So by just even going back 10 feet, and we won't have anything in front of it, it actually gives them more space to operate and should make their lives a little bit easier. And honestly, give me less of a heart attack at some point than any of and they do most of the time a great job.
so I know they tried. That's why I wanted to talk to Gary, because I was concerned with plowing.
Yeah,
And he said it wouldn't be an issue for him.
yeah. So that's number one. On the drainage, we do have drainage issues today down the actual driveway, which goes down, because the way the road is laid out, it slopes down kind of to our property, and then it runs down our driveway. I used to have a gutter there that actually Bob Davis put in even before I moved in. Because we were making all these changes, I haven't replaced it yet. And so I've kind of swaled it a little bit to go into where we have a drainage ditch, and it comes off of Neil and Susanna, the house above.
That's
and
pretty
we swale
good
it off.
ditch you got there.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Now, that is still an issue which I have to solve regardless of this garage, which we will do, and I have to put in a little swale and slope it off and pave it eventually, etc. For the garage, the plan is, it won't be anything steep by any stretch of the imagination. I expect it to be a foot or two over 10 feet higher than the road to avoid any sort of potential water ever coming towards the garage. We've never had that issues with those spots. We just have it with the driveway going down now, regardless of whether we have the garage or not, which I've solved.
Okay, so what else you got?
Any other
Oh, the
observations?
only other thing I had was, and of course, this must have been a mistake.
Yep.
It's on the building permit, but it lists here dishwasher, disposal, 200 amp service, hardwood floor, solar water heater. I don't understand what
That was
that's.
X?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just putting in things for the house.
No, that's what I assumed. Okay, good. That explains
That's a
it.
nice.
Oh,
garage.
no. Oh, you know what? No, sorry. Okay, so we do want power to the garage.
Yeah.
And we have one electric car too. So we have 400 amp service. I just put 200. I only really need 100 to the garage. These X's here map to this line, not to that line. So I said it's unfinished open stud like, for the garage and the interior. The outside would be boarded back.
That's my fault. I
And
went
then-
this way.
And then it's a metal roof.
Yeah, no, that's my fault. I misread that. That's good. That clears that.
The one, you know, going down your run on the, I'll turn around, which is north and south. Where's the north on this? There's no north. Going back, toward- that's okay, going back toward Black Mountain
That's north.
from their house. You know, on Deer Run, most of the properties are sloped down.
Yes,
And, you know, so in some sense, they all have the same issue that this property has, which makes it somewhat less unique
Well, that's,
compared to
that's,
But the difference is the frontage, I think.
yeah,
that's right. To the extent the frontage
impacts.
is a problem, impacts it, then, you know, that's
Yeah.
unique.
That's,
That's why I wanted
Yeah.
to know how the frontage impacts it. I'm still not sure that I think the frontage has a big impact. What seems to have an impact, because I think that garage could be moved 7 feet to the right or left, however you want to look at it, away from the sideline setback. But what makes it difficult to do that is not only would you have to fill and put a retaining wall in there, but is the location of the well, I guess.
yeah.
You mean as far as moving, when you're looking at it further to the left?
Yeah, 7 feet.
Then, because that's what Gary said, he pushes all the snows on that side, so I'm like.
Yeah,
that
but
would
he
affect
doesn't
you.
push it there, he pushes it between his house and their house.
That's the same place, I think.
Yeah, that's where
That's
you
what
went
he's
north
talking
of, I
about.
thought, was not
No,
7
he's-
No,
feet that way,
no.
no.
So the challenges are, to be clear, he's talking about, just to look at this, but he's saying move it, so the snow goes here. to-
Right.
He's saying move it to be in this box right here, so basically, like, just take this box
It
and make
moves
sure
7
you
feet.
7 feet this way and 7 feet that way.
Okay.
And the challenges with that are threefold. One was the well, which is the toughest one for me, because I can't get around the well. I can give you the distance there valuable. You can roughly see it's a little bit, maybe 10, 12, maybe 15 feet right now. So that becomes a challenge. The second is I need a much larger retaining wall, which is also honestly ugly to look at for us. And then the third one is just aesthetics. It will look kind of weird coming off the cul-de-sac. Today it's kind of more direct. It would just be kind of in an odd location to some extent, which is a personal point of view when it comes to aesthetics. My wife, who is the architect, could live that a little bit better.
Yeah, well, we're in the same place. That's, you know, we're
Yeah.
same understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else comments, or I can just go through the criteria that we have to vote on?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're excused,
Yes?
we can go, we're all
Oh,
set.
sure, yeah. Thank you for coming.
Like,
Let's talk a little bit more about the needs, because we're gonna get there.
Yes.
They're so happy with their screens.
And I agree with that.
It's all right.
The front
Screens anyways.
I think it's
That's-
I think it's the combination of the frontage and the steepage together. It's
Well, everybody's steep, so that's
No,
not
but-
unique.
No, but, and everybody's, and some properties have small frontage compared to others in the neighborhood. I think, but what makes this particularly unique is, as he said, is the joint condition of both of those
Yeah.
issues being present at the same time.
Let's suppose for the sake of, you're still here, so let's suppose for the sake of argument, you had 100 feet of frontage. How would that change this? How would that make it,
But this depends on the steepness everywhere, the slope everywhere, but 100 foot of frontage might give.
the house is built on filled land, the driveway's on filled
Yeah.
land, you move it and you just have to fill. You know, it's not,
Yeah.
it's, the steepness, I'm sorry, to me, the steepness is not, it's not an insurmountable situation.
No,
It's just a matter of filling, and everything there has been filled. Your neighbors are filled, I'm sure. The people above you, there's, well, probably not because they're high.
They're not on fill, actually.
Yeah.
The one next that isn't.
But everybody down on that side has got to be on some kind of fill. On your, you know, like down to the left of the road as you drive in.
So just to be clear on that front, there's 3 houses on the left side of the road. There's Greg and Melinda, who we just talked about,
Yeah,
and then there's one more beside them, who, to be clear, I'm sure it's grandfathered in. They do not meet zoning regulations right now. They have a covered deck that literally goes right to the road's edge, so they can walk right into their property. I can't talk to their fill and whatnot, but those are the only 3 homes
yeah.
on Deer Run right now.
Yeah, I saw it, that it's kind of interesting, that little, it's like a covered bridge that they've got.
Yeah, so they're them, and then the other 2 are Neil and Suzanne, who are above us, and then the other one is the posts. And actually, the posts have a variance also, for what it's worth. When they built their home, they found out they were within 25 feet of, sorry, the names don't mean anything to you guys, Neil and Suzanne, who are my neighbor, and so they need to get a variance for that, I think, 10 or 11 years ago. It happened right around when we moved in initially, so.
Well,
I
if we had 100 feet of frontage, you could move it 7 feet to the left or right, depending on how you want to look at it.
Well,
And it would look good.
yeah.
Because you got 100 feet of frontage.
So to give you an example of that, I own the property below on Woodpecker also. I purchased that last year. It used to be one, it got split at some point, and now I own it. And I probably have, I don't know the number off my head, let's say 300 feet of frontage, because it's the entire side and then half of that cul-de-sac also.
Right.
That gives me 350 feet of places to try to dive in to be able to build a driveway, home,
Yeah.
garage,
Yeah.
etc., as opposed to literally having this one spot. And I think adding in the unique location of the home too just makes it really tight also.
Oh, I can see it's really tight.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that you've got a very small area there to work. I mean, you may have a lot of land, I don't know how many, maybe 2 acres or something.
Acre and a half, but it's all in the back.
Yeah, acre and a half, but you've got about, 5,000 or 6,000 square feet that's workable.
Yeah.
That you could do something with, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
That's my only hang-up as far as, other than the frontage, the uniqueness. You build on a mountain, you're either going up or you're going down. And that's every place.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't see a lot of uniqueness in this property as opposed to the other properties, except for the fact that he's got a very small,
Yeah,
Frontage.
window.
and that's like it.
So I want to do the same thing, it was my property. I hear what you're saying, but
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it used to be, 10 years, 15 years ago, the variance criteria on uniqueness basically applied to the land, and nothing else.
Right.
You remember the parade decision, which was the Marriott and Portsmouth,
Portsmouth, yes.
where they were granted a variance for a larger sign because they had a larger building. And
Yeah.
that went to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
They set that. So all of a sudden, since then, you know, we have some ability to consider existing things on the property.
Right.
Existing buildings.
Right.
So, in my view, it's, you know, it's a combination of the slope, the frontage, the location of the existing house, which is not something we used to consider, and quite frankly, also the existing well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, those are factors, right?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, the well is a problem, but that's a
So,
good point,
and-
because it is something that becomes unique, because if you put a garage in there, you try to turn, you're over your well.
So, I mean, if this was a new house being constructed, and the owner wanted to put a garage at this location, we might come to a different conclusion, because they have the ability to put the house someplace a little bit different, bring in more fill, do all things, I mean, there's more flexibility there that this gentleman doesn't have.
Okay.
So that's, you know, I initially
Yeah.
had the same concerns you did, Dave. And I'm kind of thinking about it more, kind of appreciate where we are,
Okay.
okay? So, first, right, thing we have to decide on is whether or not the variance is contrary to public interest, and in particular, it must unduly into a market degree violate the basic zoning objectives of the zoning ordinance. So here we're talking about setbacks, largely, which includes views,
Yep.
and access, and, you know, things like that. I don't see that this is contrary to public interest, but it's my
I
opinion.
agree.
All in favor of finding that this is not contrary to public interest? Okay, 4-0. Then, next would be the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Again, you know, how
The
to
spirit of the ordinance would be observed. The spirit of the ordinance is, at least, well, I'll tell you what I think the spirit of the ordinance is. The spirit of the ordinance is to retain the character of that place,
Yes.
not to get things crunched too close together.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's, now, remember, we went to court at one point, and the guy was definitely within setback, and the judge said, it's not that much. So this is not that much.
Yeah.
And the people who were most immediately affected by it
Yeah.
said, hey, fine with us. So
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's not in.
Yeah.
All in favor that by approving this variance, the spirit of the ordinance is observed?
Fine.
Okay, 4-0. Third would be substantial justice is done, and this is the, you know, where the loss of the individual is not outweighed by gain to the general public.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think by denying this variance, Michael would be having a significant loss.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see what the public gain is for the general public
Right.
in observing this.
This is-
So, all in favor of granting finding that substantial justice is done if we grant this variance?
Yep.
All in favor, 4-0. Then finally, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished. And here we have two closest neighbors testifying that they have no objection, and presumably,
Well, they
as I
didn't
said,
improve.
they thought, it certainly doesn't seem,
No, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah. or if anything, one of them mentioned,
Values in the
it may improve.
It could,
So,
if it's attractive enough.
all in favor of finding that the value of surrounding properties are not going to be diminished? Vote yes. Okay, 4-0. And then finally, the whole issue of unnecessary hardship. And here we are finding that, we find the particular language.
Special circumstances.
You know, let me go back to the beginning of this thing. Excuse me. That
Well,
there,
we could say that owing to the conditions of the property,
Yeah.
which are unique, or what does it say, unique, which distinguish it from other properties in the
Yeah.
area, not granting the variance would result in an unnecessary hardship.
all in favor of that? 4-0. And then finally, and then just for the record, are the elements of uniqueness that we've considered
Yeah.
are the slope, the
Lack of frontage.
lack of frontage, and I'd like to add the location
Location
of
of the
the
well.
well end of the house.
Yeah.
All in favor of those, the minutes reflecting that.
I would not put in the steepness. I don't think it's necessary, and I think that's hardly unique from the rest of the properties in that area.
Okay, even if it's you measuring it in conjunction with, okay,
Yeah, we don't need it.
okay. Then finally, we have to vote for yes or no on the variance, actually granting the variance. Dave, you look like you want to say something.
No, no.
Okay. You're anticipating my motion.
I'm
All those in
anticipating.
favor of
Wait a
granting?
minute, what did we say on this last one? I have to write this down so I can remember. So we said lack of frontage over the well, yeah.
Yeah.
And the well, locations of the well and the house.
Okay.
And then all in favor of granting the variance, vote yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you have your variance. There'll be a decision written and posted in a week or so. I think we have 10 days to do it, if I'm not mistaken. Then, at that point, any abutter or anybody interested, or the selectman can seek to have a rehearing. And that, there's a 30-day time period for that.
30 days, isn't it?
30 days,
Yeah.
And then, so you don't really have the variance for 30 days after we publish the decision. And the variance by law now only lasts for 2 years. So you have to, begin construction
Do something substantial
in
within
2 years, within 2 years, or you'll have to
coming in.
reapply. By which time, maybe none of us are on this board.
We don't even be here.
I may be in France.
You're gonna move?
No, but, well, actually, that's a good question. So, that is really, any questions at this point, or what I said?
No, that makes sense. So it's 30 days kind of open forum for anyone to ask
Well,
for-
anyone who's connected, could be the selectman, could be a butter. It can't be just anybody.
Okay, selectmen or
It's-
butter.
Yeah, it's gotta have somebody who's got a vested interest.
Somebody has a substantial interest.
Substantial interest, yeah.
And at that point, I could resubmit the building permit to
Yes,
Adam Tech.
right.
Or actually, well, I'll leave that to you and the building inspector as to when he wants to see it again.
Okay.
Yeah, but,
He may still have it, maybe he doesn't need to see it again.
well, he's
He
gonna
just
have to,
needs to
he's gonna have to
record
sign a
the
building
variance.
permit at
Yeah,
some
he's
point.
gonna have to give him a
Yeah.
permit, but he may
Yeah,
not
now
need
we,
no application.
no, we'll need to do a little more substantial application.
So that's it.
Yep.
So all in favor of adjourning? Aye.
That's adjourned.
Okay, we're done.
8:20.
8:20.
Great.